today we're going to have a very interesting and engaging conversation, right? It's going to be interactive, and we're going to explore the gig economy, remote work, online work, and it's all about expanding opportunities, right? So how can you be sitting in Ghana and you're able to work for people anywhere, and you know now that the city is depreciating, how can you earn some food for the pocket, right? Okay, so we have a very distinguished panel here. So we brought the best of the best to really dissect the topic, and I'm gonna start off with introducing our panel. Well, actually, I'm gonna let them introduce themselves so that it's more informal, so it doesn't feel so stiff. So to my left, we have David Manley. So David, just do a brief introduction.
Hello, everybody. My name is David Manley. I'm the founder and CEO of Judo, and we're in the business of using Ghanaian talent to build software for American clients.
Yes, then we have Patrick Morton.
Hey everyone, I'm Patrick Morton. I'm the regional COO at Generation, which is a nonprofit trying to tackle unemployment through job training and placement programs.
Okay, perfect. And now we have Na.
Hi, I'm Nakwale Kwati. I am a hitter. That I work with is a hit, which is an artificial intelligence and data labeling company based in France, and I work for them remotely. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna start. Okay, I think Patrick, you should keep the mic since you have it. And we're gonna first start with context. So I want to make sure that we are always on the same page. So we're going to first start with defining, like, what is the gig economy? What is remote work? Does it have something to do with robots? Are they going to take over the world? So what is the gig economy? What is remote or online work? So Patrick, if you can share some insights.
Sure thing. Thanks everyone for being here today, and thanks for your patience with our start. So there's two big kind of circles as we think about remote work and as we think about the gig economy. So remote work is any work that's being done outside of a traditional employment setting. So if you think about work from home or working in a lot of cases from a co-working space or something like that, typically you're talking about working online as opposed to like blue collar work. And then the second big circle is gig economy. So gig economy is where you're working on a contract-to-contract basis or a job-to-job basis rather than having an ongoing full-time employment with one employer. Typically, it means that you're serving a client rather than an employer in what you do. And I think where you've got an overlap in the middle of those two things would be online gig work. So these would be through platforms like Fiverr and Upwork or Isahit, right? Depending on the type of work that you're doing. There's non-online gig work, which would be things like being an Uber driver or a delivery person. And there is non-gig-based remote work where you could be full-time employed, but for either working from home for a company in Ghana or abroad.
Okay, great. So now, Patrick, I wanted to also situate the conversation, and you can tell us a little bit more about what work Generation does, and what your view is about remote work.
Sure. So broadly speaking, Generation is a nonprofit. We have job training and placement programs in many different parts of the world. So each of these programs is focused on an individual profession. And what we do is we work with employers in that profession, typically in that place, although in the case of remote work, could be in other parts of the world as well, to understand the needs of employers, their pain points, their vacancy requirements for that specific profession, that job role. And then we run training and job placement programs where people come in to the program. We develop the technical skills, the behavioral skills, and the mindsets that they need to be successful in that job, wrap it around with the social support, professional mentorship, understanding the employment essentials that they need in order to be successful in that role, and then support them right through the journey into employment, lining them up with interviews, coaching them for those interviews, giving them a second interview, or lining up a second interview if they're not successful, and then having a community and mentorship that follows them onto the workplace. So we do that in 16 different countries across 37 or 38 different professions. one of the things that we've moved into earlier this year is remote work. And initially, this is a focus on gig work, but there are other kind of full-time remote opportunities as well. And I think that, to my mind, particularly for countries like Ghana and Kenya and Pakistan and India, where we also run programs like this, I think remote work presents a really interesting opportunity, both for, as you said earlier, getting kind of foreign currency denominated earnings when maybe there's high local inflation, things like that. But it also just really connects people to that international labor market when there might not be the same type or different types of opportunities at home. So I think it's a really interesting space. I think there's also opportunity to support people in rural areas or areas where there might not be as high a concentration of jobs. So I'll pause there for now.
Okay, great, thank you. So David, now I wanted to ask you, is Africa ready? Is Ghana ready? Like we're hearing, are we well situated to be able to take advantage of, gig or remote work?
Thank you for the question. Can you guys hear me? I think Africa has always been ready. It's just that the people that have the money and infrastructure, what have you, they've not realized how in alignment African talent are with them and what they need to accomplish.
Okay, so a follow-up question to that is, how do you prepare yourself to be able to take advantage of remote or online work? What skills do you need to have?
As a Ghanaian?
Well, as an individual.
Oh, you want my true answer?
Yes, your true answer.
I would say leverage YouTube.
So yeah, go and learn YouTube.
No, honestly, you have to really, first and foremost, I got to say thanks to you and the type of infrastructure that you're building, because you may be a nonprofit, but you're also a business. You have to have a business mindset with your organization to build the environment for young girls and boys in Ghana to see that and come in and say, okay, well, I think someone can provide me these resources and I can do great things that I can work and I can serve the greater economy globally and intercontinentally.
Okay, that's great. So I want to give an example of one of our interesting partnerships that we have. So we partner with a French company called Ishahit, and they work on data annotation, image annotation, SEO optimization, and they hire 113 women who do 50 hours of work and earn up to 350 euros a month, right? And for this partnership, one of the things that we saw was with a computer and internet access, you were now able to earn some money. So now I'm going to turn over to Na, who works for Ishahit, and just ask first, how did she hear about the opportunity? What made her want to get involved? And how has the experience been so far?
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to share this experience with everyone. First of all, I've always been the type of person who wants to work in the international space, but I have always been limited by my environment. So I once attended an entrepreneurial training, which was for about 3 months. And then one of the facilitators was telling us about how the workspace has evolved, and that there is a company in France that employs women from developing countries, and you'd be able to earn an amount of euros in a month depending on how much you work. So I got interested. When the time came, I applied and I made it through. And I have to be very honest, it has been worth it. All I need is a laptop. Even from beginning, I was using my phone and I was still working. You just need internet connection, the motivation to work, and that's it. And then also, I've also been able to give off my talent. When it comes to the area of writing, it is something I'm really good at in any area at all. I'm not limited to any space. So earlier this year, Ishahit called for people to apply for a writing project, which actually pays better than the normal ones. I applied, I was given a test, and I made it through. And it's been an exciting journey. Every time I hear that the euro rate has gone up, while others are a bit shaky, I am always excited. Almost every morning I check the euro rate, because
you check the euro rate every
morning because I know that something good is coming. So that has been it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, but now just on to
Yes.
you. I think one of the big issues with remote work is payment channels, right?
Yes.
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 And I wanted you to just share some light about how was it
Yes.
to receive your money?
Yes. Thank you for-
How was the experience?
Yes. So when I first joined Isahit, they were paying through PayPal, and that was a bit challenging because when I got my first pay, I now had to call people in different countries to find out, please, do you have a PayPal account so that I can transfer my funds to you? I wasn't getting it until I called upon Shronko Academy, the partnering organization, and then I was able to get my pay. But moving forward, they have now made it very simple. You can be paid directly on your mobile money wallet. All you have to do is to request for your payment, and then that's the only challenge. You have to wait for up to 30 days to receive your pay, but it's for a good reason. They know that these days there are lots of cyber attacks and all that. So anytime you request for payment, you have to take a photograph of yourself in your current location, and then they check if it's the same person requesting before they send it. So within 30 days, they're able to do all that, and you receive your money right on your mobile money wallet. You don't need to go anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Na. So I'm going to go to Patrick now. So, Patrick, one of the other issues I find with remote work is how do we ensure that players on the continent are fairly compensated, right? Because there are some international players that may think, okay, their currency is stronger, so they may not be willing to pay as much as they would have paid a similar individual in their countries. How do we ensure that, players here are not taken advantage of, and if we are taking out talent, there's fair compensation?
Yeah, it's a really good question. One of the avenues that I particularly like is where you have local organizations that are acting as the primary intermediary between the workers and the clients or customers abroad. And there are a lot of different organizations in Ghana that are doing this already. There are organizations like Appoint and Remotely and to some extent Amalitech, et cetera, where they're deeply connected to the workers here in Ghana and then build the business with customers abroad. And so I think those organizations are kind of in the best position to be the intermediary, right? And I mean, I think, David, you could probably talk about this as well. That's where you've got that's where you can build in the protections. You're, actually, more, those organizations are more accountable to their local employees, et cetera. So that's one avenue, right? I think that there's the other kind of big thing that's really important is transparency. I think transparency through the process, start to finish, across all of these different channels means that workers are coming to the table with appropriate expectations. They know what the reality is. And as much as there can be transparency between platforms, between opportunities, then they're in the best position to actually make a choice and say, hey, that job, that opportunity, that gig, I'm not interested because it's not paying enough for me. It's not paying what I think that I'm worth. And as much as you can get that transparency across, I think some platforms do a better job of this than others. Then you can understand what the market rates are and what does this look like not only for other workers in Ghana, but across the continent internationally as well.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is make sure you do your research, right? Understand what the market rates are, understand what's happening there. Just a follow-on question to that, Patrick, is the legal framework. So I'll give you a challenge that we're having. So when you work with international players, they have certain legal requirements as per the laws in their country, working with contractors, because remote workers, quote unquote, are subcontractors. And there are certain requirements. So for example, with Ishahit, one of the requirements is that you must be self-employed, because as they are making a payment, they need you to have a legal document that shows that you are an independent contractor or you are able to work. So they can't necessarily just pay Regina as an individual. They need some documentation. The other thing is the tax issue. So as part of the regulations in their country, they must make sure that workers are filing their taxes, right? So the follow-up question I have is, what do you think about maybe intermediary organizations also putting in a little bit more information on what are the requirements that their countries need in order for Ghanaians to be able to comply?
Yeah, I am not a tax or employment law specialist by any stretch of the imagination. But listen, I mean, to your point about the onus is on those intermediary organizations to make sure that they're being clear and upfront about what the requirements are for their country. 100% agreed. I mean, one of the reasons why this gets very complicated is those clients, those employers, those intermediaries can be in one of 200 different countries, each with their own regulations, requirements, et cetera. And so it's it's not realistic to expect that any individual worker knows about all those requirements and can adjust. And so that's where these platforms, these intermediaries, these agencies, there's really a heavy onus on them to make sure that they're providing the information, they're trying to streamline as much as possible. But it is a challenge because it's a very complex environment. And I think that we're in a place where most of the regulatory regimes worldwide haven't really caught up to this rapidly changing world of work. And it's just one of the challenges that is unfortunately for now a reality that we all have to work with.
Okay, thank you. Okay, David, so I wanted to ask you, when people think about remote work, they think, okay, I'm going to go to Upwork, I'm going to go to Fiverr, I'm going to go to all these platforms and sign up and then get some work done. One thing I like about what you are trying to do with your organization is you are going to set up these development pods in country. So can you shed a little bit more light about Judah and why you decided to go that route? Why didn't you just have people register online and do work?
Thank you. Good question. I think, well, to be very honest with you, with Judah, when we started, we were in the business of staff augmentation, not just being the middleman between the talent and the organization in America. And then we quickly realized that we really wanted to have a much bigger impact. We want to build a culture. Because I think we can build a culture here. The West or America has not figured out work culture yet. So it's not as if we're far behind, but we wanted to create something to where it will have a sense of legacy. That's very, at least for me, that is important for me. So culture was very important. So we designed a model, three business models, which gave us an advantage to do a good job with selling to our client. It gave us more opportunities to create jobs for our African talent. The first model was just full stack engineering. We're building front end and back end and back end. New stuff or enhancing as they're building the new stuff. The second concept is continuous app. America or Europe has a lot of applications that are legacy applications, and some of these organizations are trying to pivot to build SaaS applications for the service that they need to provide the end client. So we want to leverage our African talent and partners to maintain that. In a simple form, we're patching holes, right? Or we could be creating enhancement because the end client may want some enhancement before the SaaS application is ready. So that's that. And then we're also still open to the last option, which is staff augmentations, where we're willing, let's say if our organization we have a client right now who wants 50 to 100 people potentially by mid next year. So we can give them those 50 to 100 people as a set versus just having one person at an organization working. I think that's a bit ineffective. So.
Okay. So I also wanted to find out, when you are sourcing clients from the US, what are their concerns if they have to get talent from the continent? Or are there any concerns?
Oh, man, I love this question. Because I have to deal with this a lot every day because my job is to go sell. So this is a partnership, right? I have to do my part. You have to do your part. I have expectation. You have expectation for me. I have expectation for you. So the reason why I love this question is because the potential clients and investors that I've been meeting with, they don't believe that America and Africa have a lot in common than they think. So in the earlier time of software engineering, they've gone to East Asia and whatnot. They've gone to further away. But there's a lot of advantages. So my responsibility as the leader of GDIW is educating them. So coming from a place of, hey, okay, well, since you don't have this context, I'm going to provide this context for you so that you can trust what it is that I'm selling you.
Okay. And do they have any issues with ethics or thinking that maybe people will not be trustworthy in delivering or people will not be able to deliver at a certain quality?
Yes, that is a concern for anybody. Even if I was an investor I own a company, I would have the same concerns. So you can, and I think it is my responsibility to describe or create a picture of them that they can understand, digest, and accept as well. So that's a responsibility for me. Yes, I've talked to some potential clients that have questions about infrastructure, right? Now, I don't own infrastructure in Ghana, but I'm part of the infrastructure system in Ghana, right? So I have a role to play bringing my company to Ghana. I have to provide jobs for young Ghanaian boys and girls. The government have to provide, I don't sign internet contract or electricity contract. That's not my role. I sign those contracts for my building, what I have control over. So holistically, they have to be aware of that context.
That's true. Okay, I'm now going to go over to Na. So now you talked about how you are always excited about the euro rates going up. Let's talk challenges.
Yes.
What would you say have been some of the challenges, working remotely from Ghana for Ishahit?
Okay, thank you for the question. So one of the challenges for me was when I first started, we were being paid €3 per hour, but at a point in time, it was slashed to €1.7. And the reason they gave was the fact that there's a gap, there's a difference in our economies. So they felt that being at par with them was giving us some kind of advantage over others. That has been one of my major challenges. Now, the other challenge has been their way of calculating the hours. Now, their internet connectivity is very fast. So they sometimes calculate that you should have been able to do this amount of work in an hour. But actually, when you come to Ghana, it will take you about, let's say, 4 or 5 hours. But then over there, it is still calculated as an hour because that is how their connectivity is. So that has been, for me, a major challenge because I know I have worked for about 6 hours, but at the end of the day, I'm paid for 2 hours because per their internet connectivity, this should have been done in an hour or two. So for me, the payment and then the hourly rate has been my major challenge.
Yeah, and I think that is a fair comment because if they look at the speeds that they have there, you should do this in a short amount of time. So they wouldn't understand, like you said, that a 1 hour task can take, up to 4 hours, right, of getting work done. And I just wanted to ask you, have you thought about looking at other opportunities in remote work?
I have actually thought and tried. So, earlier, that was about 2 months ago, I saw an advert for a sponsored program, a virtual assistance program, which I applied for and I went through. I'm actually left with a month to complete. And what they also do is to, they have a fellowship program for their alumni. They call it The Room. And what they do is to create profiles similar to LinkedIn for their alumni so that they can equally have opportunities for remote jobs. So that is what I'm actually working on at the moment. I'll be done in a month, and by then I'll be qualified for that opportunity as well.
So if somebody gives you a full-time job, will you take it?
Online?
No, in Ghana.
I don't think so. So, Karen, no.
So now you are fully remote online. You don't want full-time job here in Ghana?
Preferably.
Preferably.
I have to be very honest. It is very, very, what's the word? It's worth it. It's worth it. As long as you are ready to put in time and effort, you can equally make it without necessarily having to go around looking for jobs. I was working for government. My contract ended earlier this year. And to be honest, from that time till now, my job at Ishahit is what has been sustaining me. And there are even times that I'm able to help my sister. My sister is in school, and there are times that she depends on me financially, and everything I give to her at the moment comes from the job I got at Ishahit. So for me, if I had the opportunity and the chance, I would work remotely full-time, just find other ones in addition.
Okay. Patrick, I wanted to also situate the conversation by making sure we're not leaving anybody behind, because at Shonko we are very particular about how do we ensure that people with disabilities, different marginalized groups, and you mentioned somebody in a rural area will be able to connect. How do we ensure that these groups are not left behind with remote opportunities?
It's a really good question. I have to admit, I'm not an expert in this area, right? I mean, and I don't make that comment lightly, because I think there is, when you want to work with differently abled persons or folks who are facing a whole various number of challenges to be successful in the workplace, it requires expertise. It's really easy to get that wrong as an organization, because it's really easy to make assumptions about what people can and can't do, the types of challenges that they will face. And so for any government organization, nonprofit organization, for-profit organization who's going to make that a goal, you need to bring in that expertise. And there's a lot of great organizations and people out there that have spent a lot of time working with those populations and understanding their needs, whatever it might be, right? Recognizing that it is different across. We have a couple, globally, we have a small number of specific programs that really focus on neurodivergent populations with different needs, different abilities. And so in those situations, we're making sure that we're partnering with organizations that really focus on those populations. We've got programs that we're planning that would be working with refugees and migrant populations. Again, we're looking to work with, whether it be the UNHCR or the Danish Refugee Council, et cetera, organizations that have deep knowledge and expertise and ties with those communities, because we're very good at what we do, and that's not where we've got the deep expertise. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I'd highlight for any organization looking to do that.
Okay. David, I have one final question before I come to the audience. You could have picked any African country to start off with. With Judah. Why did you pick Ghana?
Man, you're asking all the good questions. So I'm an entrepreneur, and I guess the way I see the world, I see it through a global lens. That's my foundation for the way I think. There are different parts of the world that are very fortunate, and different parts of the world that aren't very fortunate. And you have to make very calculated decisions when you're going to go global. Okay? 8 years ago, I started 2 companies together. Don't ever do that. I started a high-end suit company, and I started a farm in my home country, Liberia. I'm not a farm expert. I've never farmed before. I didn't go to school for it. But I have visited Liberia for the first time, and I saw poverty. And I go, oh, man, the people are really, really poor. I have to do something. And I didn't mean that in an insulting way. It really triggered my sense of responsibility. And I think I've been fortunate to make it to America to have access to all the resources there is. And there are a lot of our brothers and sisters that may leave here to go to America to work. And they may not look back at Africa, but I think there are some of us that owe our people that responsibility. And when I say our people, it's not just Africa. I have workers in the Philippines right now. I have workers in Spain. I have workers in all these different parts of the world. But Africa is unique because, of course, I'm going to be biased. That's where I'm from, let alone I'm from Liberia specifically. But I was very truly inspired. I've heard about how very intelligent the Ghanaians people are. And not to say the Nigerians are not intelligent or the Liberians are not intelligent. I think we're all smart, okay? But I think for me personally, this is a good place to start from. And this is where I want my infrastructure to be established, my foundation. Because I think Ghana, I was saying this to my business associates the other day. I said, yes, I've gone to Liberia so many times, and I've seen opportunity. I've come to Ghana. Ghana is really Ghana is going to allow me to see Liberia in a completely different light. And I'm excited for that journey. I hope that answered your questions.
No, we are also excited that you have decided to come to Ghana. So now I'm going to open the floor. If anybody has any question. I saw a hand shoot up. I think you were just, okay. So if you have any question, please, yes. We'll just start there because it's closer. Yes.
Okay, so about 3 or 2 years ago, I was fortunate to join a program at Shronko Academy, and I came across Isa Hates applications, and then I applied. But then, unfortunately, I couldn't go through the application process. Should I say I failed? I wasn't accepted. So and recently, I think, no, just yesterday, I tried applying again, and then I received a mail in my inbox email, and I don't want to make the same mistakes I made 3 years ago. So I was wondering if Shronko Academy has measures in place to help people like us, people who do not know our way about the application process, so that we could pass through when we try again.
Okay, I mean, I think that is. Okay. Okay, just before I answer your question, please, if you want to ask a question, because we're streaming also, if you could come forward. So just to answer your question, and I think that is another key role that intermediate organizations like, Shronko, anybody else who is interested in doing more of that support. So definitely, we will be doing more to help you with the application process. In fact, I think right now we are also very interested in remote work. So we will also be doing more to help anybody else, not only with Ishahid, but bringing other partners on board. If you're interested in remote work, see us. We will do more to help you in applying and making sure that you take all the tests. So don't worry, we'll sort you out. So please, does anybody have any question? Yes, if you can please come in front for streaming. Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay, so good morning. I just want to find out, aside having a laptop and an internet connection, what specific qualifications must you have to get remote work? Secondly, where are the jobs? If I Google remote work for Ghanaians, would I find something? Thank you very much.
So who's going to take that? Who wants to go? Yeah, I already just gave it to David. So David, she says, apart from a laptop and internet, what qualifications do you need for remote work? Let's do the first one first.
You just need to come as a person. Well, we have our own vetting system, right? I can understand how, even in America, when you are looking for work, it's a challenge too. I have people that are struggling to find work in America, so this is a global problem. It's not just a Ghanaian problem. I think the reason why we have partnership with the likes of Sovereign Codes and developer involved and whatnot, that help us a lot. I think when you're connected to those organizational institutions, it makes the window much tighter for you. And I'm doing this. I'm marketing these organizations intentionally because if I were to look online for work in Africa, it would be looking for a needle in a haystack. It would be very but leveraging. I hope I'm answering the question.
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
You are, yeah.
But leveraging the resources around you, right? Making sure that you also have a foundation of why you're coming into it, right? Because my assumption is that you have this specific skill set and it's in alignment with the job that is out there. That's going to be very critical. Start from there first. Have that sense of awareness and then come into that ecosystem like the Sorenco, the Dave, or Judo, my website, our website.
Okay. Yeah, so I just also wanted to add, there are different skills for online work, right? So you have content creators, you have proofreaders, you have testers, you have data entry, virtual assistants. The list is endless. You can actually go and Google remote work, and then you find a list of all these companies, Upwork. There are several companies. The only challenge is the payment platform. So most of them will say that they will pay in PayPal. As you know, PayPal is banned in Ghana, even though there are ways and means. I don't encourage that. But legally, PayPal is not allowed. So I think one of the things that we also need to raise our voices in is making sure that these platforms open up for different payment channels. Like all the fintechs are doing all these mobile money payments. But as of now, if you literally just Google remote work, several jobs will come up. One very interesting trend is we're seeing a lot of virtual assistants. As an organization, we get a lot of requests for data entry. Big organizations just looking for people to enter data, or testers. So another key thing is organizations that are looking to launch products in Africa are looking for testers to give them that context. So they'll simply give you a set of things that you must test for, and that pays. And content writing is also a really great, skill that a lot of organizations are looking for people to create content, because digital marketing, everybody's thinking about how to go online. So if you're able to read and write, you are good. The last one, which I found very interesting, is people to teach English. So there is a website which I'm forgetting now. It slipped my mind. If you know how to speak English, you can teach English to people in different parts of the world. That makes money. So even with your basic skills, so far as you have the mindset, you really want to get involved. And I think the other thing is the discipline, right? Because you have to make sure that you meet deadlines, you are doing the work well, it's up to a certain quality. But the range of skills are different. And then on the other side, you have like the advanced technology skills. So people looking for cloud engineers, software developers, but you can start with just simple data entry and go as high as a cloud engineer, right? So the answer is there is a whole range. So wherever you want to place yourself, you can actually find a remote job that works for you. Yes, of course. Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I think I answered part of the question. You answered all of the question. And thank you for that. But for my organization, when you come here as a quality analyst, I'm not sure if you're all familiar with that, but it's just testing the application to make sure that it works. If you're doing that for 1 year, we don't want you to be a quality analyst after 3 to 5 years. You should come in with the mindset of, I want to grow on this trajectory to be a data scientist, right? So always have that in mind when you're going to any situation. It doesn't have to be my company, any organization that you're going to. Ask. I know you're doing the job because you want to make money, but it has to benefit you beyond money as well. And not to say that if it doesn't benefit you beyond money, you shouldn't take the job because of your circumstances. Still do take the job, but put yourself in situations that allows you an opportunity to grow.
Yeah. I think Patrick wanted to say something.
Yeah, just to add kind of 2 points. So with regards to, you asked specifically about kind of what are the qualifications beyond a laptop that you need. And I think both David and Regina did a really great job of highlighting a lot of the different roles and skills. I would also add that there are a number of different, there are a bunch of soft skills essentially that you also need in order to be successful as a freelancer, right? It is different than working in an office environment, in a full-time job environment. Because you're working largely independently, that ability to work independently is really, really important. And so some of the key things that come along with that are communication, right? Really strong communication skills and proactive communication with your client, your employer, whoever it might be, becomes increasingly important in remote work. Time management and self-management, really, really critical. Quality assurance, right? The ability to kind of self-check the work that you're doing to make sure that it's meeting the expectation. And then just that desire to learn and grow and continue to improve. Because I think, again, without the structures of a typical work environment, that becomes really, really critical. Because that, one of the most important parts of a career is the growth path, both within an individual role and an ongoing basis. So those are just a few things that I wanted to add.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Patrick. I think you had a second part to your question, right? Or has it been answered?
I think it was where to find the jobs.
Oh, where
Is
to
that right?
find the jobs. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Everything is online.
I can mention a few different
please do it,
organizations and
yeah.
platforms
Yeah.
that I've come across anyway.
Okay.
There are obviously the big ones: Upwork, Fiverr, Freelancer.com. There are a number of organizations that are working locally as intermediaries, Appoint remotely, Colibri. There's a new platform coming up called thefairwork.com, which is from Amali Tech as well. Within Upwork and Fiverr, they also have academies to help onboard people to the platform. So Upwork Academy, I'm blanking on the name of the Fiverr one, but they provide some training and coaching as well to help people get onto the platform successfully. Blossom Academy, Saranka, there's a huge number of organizations like this that I think provide support both in the skilling but also direct placement opportunities.
Yeah. And I think another interesting thing is even creating content for yourself. Like, how can you start a YouTube channel or put out content out there? I think that is also another space that we can look into, because now the world is looking at different types of content. So with a camera, if you have something interesting to say or something interesting to showcase, you can even start a YouTube channel that also pays, or TikTok, so the range is really endless. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, I'm Nehemiah. I'm CEO of Atwatech. I just wanted to add a bit to the conversation. There's a thing where Ghanaians do not approach work in a certain way, and if you are interested in doing remote work, you have to bring your A game. So you don't want to commit to something and then you start not showing up to do things and expecting to be coached and giving excuses like your internet was off and you didn't have electricity. Those things do not play in that space. So if you really are committed to doing this, you need to make sure. And I think some of them are trying to make sure you have that infrastructure. But if you're going to do this from home, you have to look at alternative ways to ensure that you constantly have power, you constantly have internet, and you are going to do the work. You are not going to sign up and then spend time lazing about or not really committing to it, because you are not going to pretend to work. If you pretend to work, you won't be paid and they will kick you off, and that will be you being blacklisted or something. So I just wanted to add that to
Wait,
the
Emma,
conversation.
sorry. Now that I have you, I'm going to steal this opportunity. I wanted to ask, have you worked with groups outside Ghana? In your organization, have you had to outsource work to maybe different people in different countries, and how has that experience been if you have?
So we've done that, and we've also gotten work outsourced to us, and you'd see that with certain environments, especially if you're dealing with francophones, they have a certain mindset. They want to go by what the law says. So once we agree on this, I'm going by this, and they will actually put in the shift. And then you also find sometimes some Ghanaians feeling entitled, and so whilst you've given them the opportunity, they also feel entitled to the job, but they do not want to put in the shift. But that requires a bit of mindset change and things like that. And unfortunately, sometimes you end up losing out, because then your partner says that, you know what, you give me 5 developers, but I'm only going to continue working with 3 because the other set are not. They may be good, they may have the right skills, but their attitude stinks, and so you don't want to do that.
So I'm hearing soft skills, the right mindset, the right attitude. Thank you so much, Naima. So any other questions? Okay. We have Dominic. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes. Sorry.
Yes, so adding to the attitude to what that he was talking about, it just occurred to me. So I mentioned earlier that most of my activity for this year has been on content writing. Now, what I am to do is to first of all give an outline of how the work is supposed to look, wait for them to approve before I write. But then I found out that it was wasting time. So I developed a strategy. I do both together and send it for them to scrutinize at the same time instead of waiting. And I realized it really gave me some level of credibility. So sometimes, even when my work has not yet been reviewed, they trust what I've done enough. They pay me ahead of time before even reviewing whether what I've done is right or wrong or making additions or subtractions. So I just wanted to add, he mentioned attitude to work. You should always go beyond what is expected of you once you get that opportunity.
Thank you so much, Na. So we have Dominic. Dominic, I don't know if you can hear us. Can you hear us? Okay, I don't think Dominic can hear us. Oh, wow. Sorry, he's stuck. Okay. So, while we're hoping, Dominic, can you hear us? Okay, we can hear Dominic. Oh, hello, Dominic. We can hear you now, barely. Dominic, I am so sorry. You should have joined the conversation earlier, but we struggled a little to get you on. We just have a few minutes. I just wanted you to present a little bit about who you are and then what you are hoping to accomplish with your organization. Hopefully, we can hear him. Oh, wow. We can't hear Dominic. Okay. So while Dominic we're figuring out, I wanted you all to go on your phones to this link. So we're going to have like I said, now everything is going digital. So instead of doing post-its, I wanted feedback. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and I know maybe some people may not want to raise their hand. So you can actually just go to this link, catley.postfeedback. And you're going to have a Padlet, so you can just type any feedback, anything that you want to add. We'll see the Padlets come up here, and then I can read them also while we try and see if we can get Dominic. So please go to Cuttly, cutt.ly/post feedback, and you should see a plus sign. You can post whatever feedback you want to post. If there's a question you have, feedback on the session, and I'm also going to ask some questions, and I want you to help me with the answers. Okay, I think we're still struggling to get Dominic. Okay, sorry, can we now change to the Padlet so that we see the responses that come? Okay. Can we switch to the Padlets? Yeah. So let me know if you're able to get onto the link. So you should see a purple screen with the topic that we are discussing. Oh, we can hear Dominic now. Dominic, hello? Oh, okay. It's a bit better. Dominic, yeah, so I just wanted you to introduce yourself and just briefly tell us about what you're trying to do with your organization.
It's great to be working with a range of organizations, including Saronka. What we're really focusing on is how can we have quality, not quantity. Both is really good. But yeah, thanks so much for being, and I hope that works.
Okay, Dominic, thank you so much. We've unfortunately run out of time, but I just really liked, and I just wanted to soundboard it again because maybe we didn't hear it when you said it. How many jobs are you hoping to create?
We'd like to create 1 million tech jobs across Africa in the next 10 years.
Tech jobs. Wow. I mean, we like the sound of that, don't we? 1 million tech jobs, right? Okay. Dominic, thank you so much. Any parting last words? And we are really sorry you couldn't join the full conversation, but is there any final words you'd like to say as we're wrapping up the session?
I think I just want to say thanks so much for having me. And I think obviously we've looked at COVID as being a real challenge, but actually COVID with regards to remote work is a real opportunity. We see clients across the world very happy to work across Zoom, but I also want to echo what the previous person said as well. Make sure that your internet's working. Make sure that we have kind of good hard and soft skills, and let's go on a journey together and build a sustainable future.
Thank you so much, Dominic. Thank you for joining us. So now we're going to wrap up, but I wanted to quickly go to the Padlet because people have put in some feedback. And if we could switch the screen to the Padlet, that would be good. Thank you. Okay. So I'm just going to share some of the feedback from the Padlet as the tech team is working on getting it. So we have, how do you get contracts on Upwork or Fiverr and other sites? Because sometimes getting the contract, okay, that one, is the difficult part even after signing up. This is such an amazing opportunity, and I must say it's my first time hearing of remote work, and I know I want to work remotely sooner or later. I've really learned a lot, and Ms. Nas also sparked my interest. In fact, she's inspiring me to learn and do more. Very insightful session on gig remote economy, looking at the traffic and 4 hikes in Ghana. This is worth considering. I totally agree. I really like the session because I would like to work remotely. So I want to know if there can be mentors or assistants from Sonko. Okay, amazing conversation to give insights about opportunities. Great panelists during the session. Lots of info was shared, different organizations and websites which we can use to find jobs. I wonder if we can capture that information from the panelists and distribute it to those that attended. We will definitely take that feedback and do that. Okay, so yes, we see the Padlets coming in. So I just wanted final closing remarks from the panel as we are wrapping up. Yeah.
Okay, final words. One thing I would say is that you should always stay motivated, always be ready to learn something new. Most of the things I am doing is not something I'm familiar with, but I psyched myself up. Apart from the fact that writing comes to me, most of the things I have to write about is not something I'm really good at. And I really had to psych myself up. Sometimes it takes a whole day to finish one work. And honestly, apart from the money, if you are not motivated, there are times that you might give up. So
Thank you so much, Na. Thank you. Patrick, closing remarks?
Only to say thank you. I found this group really inspiring. I really appreciate being here.
Thank you. Thank you. David?
I've been so privileged to be in every one of your presence. I mean, like, that is my honest answer. Yeah, I'm excited for what the future holds for all of us.
And thank you all so much. I didn't even introduce myself. So my name is Regina Honu. I'm the CEO of Shonkwa Academy. Thank you for coming. I'm glad to hear you found the session insightful. We're going to continue the conversations. We'll take your email addresses and send you information. If you'd like to engage, I mean, the team is around and the panelists are around. I hope you enjoy the rest of Ghana Digital Innovation Week. And thank you all very much.